now. I'll take the Panthers one over. Their needs are quarterback, O-line, linebacker, corner, safety. Guys to bring back a lot of guys. Uh, Hassan Reddick, Matt Paradis. I don't know if I'm saying that one right. Dante Jackson, Stephon Gilmore. Their cap is $12.3 million. I'm gonna hand this one off to Josh.
Okay, so the Carolina Panthers, they're probably one of the best places for Deshaun Watson to go. They have the picks, they have the talent, and I think that we could get a deal done. Unless, Matt Rule is still thinking that he is Jay-Z and it's going to take 9 years, which he won't have at the Carolina Panthers. So I think Watson would probably be their best option to think of themselves as contenders and one step away from a championship. Also, they'd be a good team to fleece with this area. So, trade for Watson. If you're smart, you would get maybe a Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, Carson, one of these later first round guys, or you just take them with your first pick if you some type of cornerback like we'll see. And then linebacker seems like a need. Along with O-line. O-line would probably be the first thing I would address. Evan Neal's probably not going to be where Charles Cross is and Wanwu or Ecom, depending on how you'd like to say it. Either go by his nickname or his real name. And then linebacker, another thing that could probably be solved with Hassan Reddick for a little bit. Put a little Band-Aid on this for right now. Give him some money because he is a little bit older. So just make sure to keep watch of that. And then safety is probably something just in case you want to probably. But I think either a good second round guy or Deshaun O-line are your two big things that you have to go after, especially with the combine happening in the draft season coming up very, very soon. So I'm going to hand this one off to Jack for his.
Panthers, weird group. 12.3 million, not that much in the grand scheme of things, but let's get right into it. Guys to bring back. Hassan Reddick, Mr. 10-sack a year himself, is top priority for them to pair with Brian Burns. Matt Paradis, literally their only good lineman for the most part, so that's definitely something to bring back. Dante Jackson and Stephon Gilmore, try to bring one of them back to pair with C.J. Henderson and J.C. Horn. That would also help. So let's get into the needs. Quarterback, you're paying Sam Darnold $15 million, but that's not guaranteed. Or I think that is guaranteed, but you're off the books for it after next year with the fifth-year option. And I hate to say it, but I don't think Sam Darnold is the Panthers' quarterback moving forward. There's a couple different options you could go. I believe you're sitting at 7. Deshaun Watson trade's always a possibility. If you're ready to give up 3 first-round picks and you're confident that you're going to be able to become a contender with Deshaun Watson, then by all means go for it. But if not, you could get a younger and cheaper franchise guy in the draft at 7, whether that is Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral. That would be helpful. Then Sam Darnold could start it out and then slowly but surely give it to Pickett or Corral as the season goes on, kind of like the transitions do for the rookie quarterbacks. Next biggest need is O-line. Now, it was pretty clear their O-line is very bad. I think I'd say it goes far to say they're bottom 3 in the league. That needs to be addressed. Let's say that you aren't going to go get a quarterback in the top 10 of this draft. Charles Cross, Evan Neal, Akeem Ikwanu. One of them needs to be on your team if it's not a quarterback. You have to address this O-line. It is atrocious. No quarterback's going to succeed behind it, and it's mainly coming from the tackle position. It needs to be fixed, and that's the easiest way to do it. Third biggest need is probably linebacker. Shaq Thompson is solid, but other than that, there's not a lot. Van Der Esch, Nicholas Morrow, and Jayon Brown are all solid complementary options to put next to Shaq Thompson. I think that would be a nice add for at the right price. Could take Carolina's defense a long way. Fourth need is probably cornerback. They have some young guys in the core like J.C. Horn and C.J. Henderson, but they need to add to it. They just need more. Now, priority, just bring back one of the guys you already knew, Gilmore or Dante Jackson, for that experience factor. But if you can't, J.C. Jackson is not the worst consolation prize. I go as far to say he's the best quarterback out of those 3. So if you could bring in J.C. Jackson, that would just be awesome. You'd have one of the best cornerback groups in the league potentially with Horn and Jackson. Okay, so last but not least, we have safety. I believe they have one solid safety, but not a lot outside of him. So Terrell Edmonds, Jabril Peppers, and Keanu Neal moving back to safety. All three of those could be very good, but I think you do need to add a little bit of safety. It's not like a major need, but it's definitely something you need to add. If you can add a safety to an already solid cornerback group, could go a long way. But overall, figure out the O-line, fix the quarterback, and fill in some minor holes on defense. And Carolina should be back on track pretty quickly.
All right. Quarterback. For quarterback, Deshaun Watson, really good quarterback. If the legal cases are not true, this guy will be on a different team than Houston. I think that Carolina could make a really good move, especially with CMC as a movable piece. Their first round picks. So yeah, I think that you probably want to keep CMC and Deshaun Watson, so you could have that little pairing for a little bit of time. But then contracts start coming in, then you probably won't have that pairing for too long. Next is Kenny Pickett and Matt Corral too. I like Matt Corral to this team. I think it works a lot with the Panthers and how they're trying to run things. But the first thing that they need to protect Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, or Deshaun Watson is an O-line. Charles Cross, Evan Neal, and Akeem Okwamu. All these guys are going to be in their range. The lowest guy is Evan Neal, and he's supposed to go first pick. But he's been falling draft boards. And he's actually the 7th best prospect right now. And Charles Cross and Akeem Okwamu are very solid too. I think that either or could be very good. The linebackers, I like this linebacker, Nicholas Morrow, Jayon Brown, or Leighton Vander Esch are very solid options. This linebackers are not the best this year, but they're still really solid ones like these guys. So yeah. Corner, I think it would be kind of good to get done. I would, my opinion, get Stephon Gilmore back. There's a lot of young corners on this team, especially J.C. Horn. I believe it's not Darrell Henderson. It's like Henderson though. Okay, it's the Jags corner, Henderson, which they traded for. So I think getting Gilmore back would be some veteran leadership. If you can't get him, I think Dante Jackson you can get on a cheap deal. And then if you can't get either, J.C. Jackson is the best corner other than maybe Jalen Ramsey in the league. So if you can get the best corner in the league, and then you can get him with J.C. Horn, one of the best young corners coming into the NFL because he really didn't have a good rookie year. So this could be very impressive. And then finally the safeties, Terrell Edmonds, I've already mentioned. Jabril Peppers, Ivan, though. I think that he could be really solid for this team. And then Keanu Neal is what I can see the most for the Panthers taking because Keanu Neal didn't have the best season in Dallas, and I think that he could have a better season in Carolina. So, yeah. Our next team is, well, a lot of these teams are going to be in the negatives, but I'm going to let Josh take this one over.
Okay, everyone, we are reaching negative row right here. We're going to be a little bit less negative here with the Atlanta Falcons. Negative 7.3. This is coming from, I do not know. And their needs for this year are wide receiver, quarterback, cornerback, edge, and safety. And Cordell Patterson, one of the greatest success stories that we have seen in a while, is somebody who they need to re-sign. So I'm going to hand this one off to Zach to start us off.
All right, wide receiver. Calvin Ridley might not be there anymore, so maybe getting a trade for him. Maybe Elijah Moore, maybe someone else like that. There's a lot of options. But the guy I think that the Falcons could take very much is Garrett Wilson or Sky Moore. Now, that is a very different range. Garrett Wilson they would have to trade up for. But I think the best idea would just try to sign Cordell Patterson. I know they don't have the money to do it, but Cordell Patterson was a big piece of your offense, and I think getting him would be amazing. What I really think the Falcons are going to do with this first-round pick is either take Carson Strong with their second-round pick, or they take Malik Willis with their first-round pick. These guys are very good and very talented quarterbacks, especially Malik Willis. He's supposed to be going in the early rounds. Early picks in the first round. So, yeah. A corner, Derek Stingley, He's very solid. Mont Gardner, and then Daxton Hill. Daxton Hill is supposed to be a second round guy. So he's very solid with coming out of Michigan, and then the other two are first rounders, and Mont Gardner coming out of Cincinnati, and Derek Stingley coming out of LSU. These guys are both very talented corners, but Daxton Hill is not a bad option. Now, edge. Dante Fowler, very solid edge rusher there, and I think that he could do wonders for this team if it's like a prove it deal type. George Karlaftis or Cameron Thomas. Cameron Thomas is supposed to be a third rounder this year, I believe. So yeah, and then Karlaftis is a first rounder if they want to take their first round like that. So there's a lot of first rounders on here that we have, and this is the very interesting one. Jaquan Burkser is supposed to be a second round guy if they want to go with their second round pick with that. And then Kyle Hamilton, if he can fall there, the Falcons should not think of anything and just take him. It's such a steal if he falls that low. He will probably not, but if he does, take him. It's be the best option. The guys that they need to resign, Dante Fowler and Cordell Patterson. I already talked about both of those. I'm going to hand this one off to Jack.
Falcons. Interesting situation here. They're broke and they weren't very good. Top guys to bring back. Dante Fowler, they already cut. They could bring him back on a cheaper deal, though. And, of course, Cordell Patterson, who was doing it all for them. Number one need is wide receiver. Ridley and the Falcons pretty much mutually agreed to seek a trade for one reason or another. So some guys they could bring back. Cordell Patterson, that'd be nice. Garrett Wilson would be good. I think he's in their range. Top 10? I think they have a top 10 pick. So it could be realistic to get him. There's a lot of talented top 10 receivers this year that you could get in the draft. And then last but not least, Sky Moore in the second round. That'd be a nice add as well. Number 2 is quarterback. Matt Ryan's got a very uncertain future. It makes a lot of sense to draft a Carson Strong or Malik Wills and have him sit on the bench for a couple weeks with Matt Ryan, see what happens. Matt Ryan can be his mentor, help him out, develop him, because there's not a really pro-ready QB prospect necessarily. So some guy will sit on the bench, develop him with Matt Ryan. I think that could go a long way moving forward. Number 3 needed is cornerback. They have A.J. Terrell, who's very good, but not a lot outside of that. I'm kind of opposed to spending the top 10 pick on the corner just because they already did that a couple years ago with Terrell. I'm more of a fan of the Daxton Hill range in second or third round, but it's not completely unreasonable to go with a Sauce or a Stingley there at the top 10 pick and create a very nice duo. Fourth need is definitely edge. They don't get a lot of sacks, the least amount of sacks in the league, actually. Now, you could bring back Dante Fowler, who's been disappointing. See if he can turn it around. George Karlaftis makes a lot of sense in that range where they are, that 7 to 8. That could be a high upside edge rusher that they ride with. And then Cameron Thomas as well. That would be another good option. And then last but not least is safety. They really don't have a solid one, so you're going to have to draft. Jaquan Brisker is probably the most realistic option, but if Kyle Hamilton is there and you don't like anybody else, then you go with Kyle Hamilton. That would be a very nice add to the Falcons' defense. But overall, this team feels a little lost right now. But this offseason, I think they'll have a clearer direction of if they're going to go towards rebuild or they're going to try to reload. We'll see what happens. But overall, definitely need to address receiver. And they could use an edge rusher too. That's the big things the Falcons need to do this offseason. What are your thoughts, Josh?
Well, the Falcons, their biggest thing, they need to re-sign Cordell. I know that he is very old, but he was the only reason our offense was doing anything this year. You need to find Matt Ryan's successor also in this offseason. Kyle Pitts cannot keep catching passes from a 30-something-year-old man. It is his time. So there's a lot of stuff they need to do. They need to make sure that they are getting, because he needs to focus on his mental health. So just from a business standpoint, we need to make sure that they are getting the most out of every single person who they sign on this team. I'm going to say for the Falcons, maybe clear up some cap space. Don't sign many free agents. Try to rebuild the youth on you, and then start trying to become playoff contenders again. That's what I'm going to say. Okay, we ready for our next team?
And that's going to be the New Orleans Saints. Jack, how about you take this one?
Oh yeah, the reigning broke champions of the NFL have arrived to Frontline Football. Look at that number. My goodness. -$76 million. Extraordinary job. Congratulations. You survived last offseason, but will you be able to do it again? We will see. And oh my God. Get drafted, New Orleans. You're going to need to. Let's get into this. Guys to bring back, even though, let's be honest, this list is pretty much worthless. They're not bringing anybody back realistically yet. Toronto Armstead? Nope. Marcus Williams? Probably not. Kawhi Alexander? Maybe. Jameis Winston? Hopeful. But you're not bringing anyone else back. Number one need is quarterback. I understand. Taysom Hill's getting paid too much money, as usual at this point. We will see what happens with Taysom Hill. Try to get Jameis Winston back. He played pretty solid before the ACL tear. I think that's something to consider. But if you're not able to get him back, you're in range for the Sam Howell, the Carson Strong of the draft, even though you're throwing him right into the fire unless you want to start Taysom Hill. But that's okay. He can learn on the job. But even though Sean Payton's gone, I kind of got to remember that. O-line's another big need. A lot of money wrapped up in it, but left tackle / right tackle is going to be a problem depending on where Armstead was going to play. So get Armstead back if you can. You're not going to be able to. Spoiler alert. Bernhard Robinson will be good, and Zion Johnson will be another good add. Number 3 is definitely receiver. Michael Thomas is good, but we never see him. And then other than Marquez Callaway, there's really no talent there at all. Juju Smith on a prove-it deal would be nice. But I'd like the Sky Moore. Sky Moore makes a lot of sense to put next to Michael Thomas. And Nick Bonito is another one that could go a long way. But overall, definitely need to add more playmakers to the Saints team. 4th need is defensive tackle. They have a good edge presence, but not a good defensive tackle. So some guys to look at is Devontae Wyatt, Trayvon Walker, and Nick Bonito. I just accidentally called Nick Bonito wide receiver. That's my bad. But you definitely need to add a defensive line in the draft, specifically a defensive tackle. I think that would be good. 5th need, tight end. There's not a lot of tight end talent either. So Trey McBride, if you can get Trey McBride, that'd be pretty awesome. If you can scheme up the Sean Payton style offense without Sean Payton. But if not, Jalen Windermeyer's a pretty good consolation prize, and David Njoku is on another prove-it deal. But overall, looking at the situation, not ideal. Pretty broke. See if you can get back to 0 before we even consider free agency. So, once again, I tell you, get drafting. What are your thoughts, Zach?
With quarterback, I think that they're going to be taking Sam Howell if they cannot get Jameis Winston back, because I feel like Jameis Winston should be number 1 priority. He did really well, actually. Jack said pretty well. I think he did very well in the beginning. They could have made playoffs if Jameis, in my opinion, was healthy. That's just my opinion on it. O-line, Toronto said, a big need. If they can get him back, then that'll lock up the Saints O-line for a little bit longer, which is kind of already falling apart because, well, everyone's kind of getting old. Art Raymond is a very solid guy. They could take that instead of Sam Howell with their first-round pick. But I don't think I can see that with them. Next is Zion Johnson. Zion Johnson is a guard coming out of Boston College. Very good. But guard is not really a need for them, but I still believe that this should be a thing to focus on because he's very young. Their guard and O-line is getting kind of old, so yeah. Now, wide receivers, Michael Thomas is not really playing. Callaway is decent. He's a preseason god, but we've never really seen him in actual English season game do well enough. Alright, and that means that Juju Smith-Schuster on a prove-it deal will be nice. And Sky Moore and Jalen Tolbert coming, and if you're wondering who Jalen Tolbert is, he is a guy coming out of South Alabama. He's supposed to be a 3rd rounder this year. So, if you're interested in that, so, yeah. Next is D-line, Trayvon Walker, very good. He's coming out of Georgia. Going to be very good. He's a 1st rounder. Wyatt. He's also, Trayvon Walker is actually, and that's my bad. I'm sorry about that. Trayvon Walker is actually an edge. That's so my bad. Devontae Wyatt and then Nick Bitonio, very solid guys. I believe Nick Bitonio is coming out of, I need to check this 1 sec. I think he's coming out of, oh, it can't be Wisconsin. Oh, yeah. Okay, there he is. Yeah. So, pretty solid guy. So, yeah. Finally, the tight ends are Trey McBride, which we found on a lot of lists. He's the best tight end in this class, and everyone's in that range for him. honestly, and he either can go really high or really low. No matters how people project tight ends this year. It's kind of broken because Kyle Pitts this year from last year, so we don't really know. Jalen, how am I going to try that name? He's coming out of A&M. A&M, I don't know how well they produce tight ends, but this guy does pretty well blocking. I want to see more in the passing game because I'm believing that they want to use it like that. And then David Njoku would be a prove it deal. All these guys that they have to bring back, like Marcus Williams, Quan Alexander, and Teron Armstead, Jameis Winston. I already talked about those two, but those other two, I don't think that they're going to be able to bring them back. I don't think they're going to bring back any of those guys. But you, Josh.
Okay, so with you guys being the cap losers, which they've already decreased $30 million of their cap. They've got it down to $42 million now, so that's good. But with the draft coming up, you need to draft. Nick Bonito is a very good prospect. Oklahoma, along with many of these other players. So first is probably a quarterback. I don't know if you were able to sign Jameis Winston because of how negative your. So maybe look for some type of guy to be very pro-rate. I would say like a Sam Howell, not a project guy like Desmond Ridder or Malik. So I think your biggest needs this year is just to draft. I'm not going to go very into all these because you know what you guys need to do. You guys need to draft, and you guys need to draft correctly. Because you can't sign free agents. This isn't Bounty Gate where all you gotta do is pay your players to injure the other, and you'll get away with it. So, you can't pay players anymore, so you gotta just live with your consequences. So, I'm gonna say, good luck. Just draft your player.
All right, cool. We're on our final team of the video is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Josh, you want to take this one?
Okay, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We thought that you guys were Super Bowl champions at the beginning of this offseason. You guys could be contenders again. All we needed to do was see a running back. And then Brady retired. And then your guard retired. And now you can't bring anybody back because you have $2.4 million, which is good for normal teams, but not good for a Super Bowl contender like you. So, I'm just going to say this. You probably re-sign maybe one of your guys, but there's 5 guys on this list to re-sign. That is probably one of the most. I think it is you have the most guys to re-sign, and you have no incentives for them. You guys didn't win a Super Bowl like you did last year. There's nothing to make them come back. There's no Brady. There's not even a guard. You don't have anything right now. I don't know what you can offer them. So you could maybe do one probably big name signing, maybe a re-sign here and there, but I think it's time to start. You need to get your quarterback of the future. You need to replace that guard, and you're going to have to start over again. Not completely start over. Maybe you could reload and bounce back. You Arians as your head coach, but I don't know. Under center. I would say good luck, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know if you can you'll probably be a playoff team next year, but I think with this, you're going to have to look at your quarterback because Brady is now retired, and I don't believe in Blaine Gabbert or Kyle Trask. I know Bruce Arians may Blaine Gabbert, but I don't. And then corner, probably going to need to get somebody, maybe a Jackson Hill, Jalen Pittray from Baylor, or J.C. Jackson. Maybe Ndamukong Suh, but I don't think he fits what you guys are going to try to go to, which is probably you're going to try to get younger so you can keep this ship running. And Ndamukong Suh doesn't seem like one of those tight ends. Gronk is leaving. Probably time to get somebody draft or in free agency like an Eric Ebron. And then finally, receiver. You're going to need to probably re-sign Chris Godwin or find someone else to replace him. So that's what I'm going to say on this team. We are going to hand it off to Jack.
Bucks are in a bit of a pickle this year. $2.4 million is not a lot to spend, and they got a lot of major players coming back. Ndamukong Suh's important, very important. Chris Godwin apparently may already have a deal in the works they're wrapping up now. That's just a rumor, though. Can't guarantee that. And their entire interior offensive line is either leaving, like Ryan Jensen and Alex Kappa, or retiring, like Ali Marped. So that's not ideal either. Gronk seems like he's not going anywhere, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be playing in Tampa Bay. Heard him wants to play at Joe Burrow, then I heard he wants to go Buffalo. A lot of weird stuff going on with Gronk. We'll see what happens. And then JPP, your complimentary pass rusher. I don't think it's the end of the world if you lose him because you have Shaq Barrett and then you have Joe Tryon who can just slide right in. He had some flashes his rookie year. He's just got to take on the full-time role. But right into it, quarterback, they have a couple options. They could go very drastic directions depending on what happens. You could always go for the Deshaun Watson trade and spend all the picks and reload and go back to Super Bowl potentially. Or you could just try to build up a new franchise quarterback in Desmond Ridder or Malik Willis. So either way, you can't keep Blaine Gabbert around. So you got to do something, Watson trade or draft. Or you could go with one of the middle guys. Even though there's a couple transition quarterbacks in free agency that aren't bad, but they aren't going to make it the Super Bowl or anything. Mariota's out there again, Trubisky, but like these guys aren't really ideal to be starting necessarily. So overall, you need to figure out quarterback very quickly, especially with the talented roster that you're potentially going to lose out on because you didn't have a quarterback in place. Cornerback's another big need. J.C. Jackson will be a dream to pair up with Carlson Davis. That'd be nice. But it's more realistic you go in the draft with Daxton Hill and Jalen Pitre. That would be good to add to your secondary. D-line's another big need with Sue gone. Sue and JPP probably leaving. But Jermaine Johnson is a very interesting prospect. The edge rusher out of, I believe, I don't remember where he's out of, but he had such a dominant Senior Bowl week that I think he just stopped going to the Senior Bowl because he raised his stock that much. So this guy's got a lot of potential, and he's a very intriguing prospect moving forward. So we'll see on that. Always can't forget about the two dominant defensive linemen coming out of Georgia, Wyatt and the other Davis, I think. That would also help if you lose out on Sue. Tight end, Gronk is gone. Howard is gone. Brate's the only one left under contract. Bring back Gronk, or you could go with Trey McBride. That'd always be awesome. And Eric Ebron's a free agent if you want to go that direction as well. Wide receiver, Antonio Brown had a little bit of a crisis. So outside of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin's on the way out. So you got to either sign him back, or you could go with another receiver to complement Mike Evans. A-Rob and Mike Evans would be an interesting pairing. Or Sammy Watkins. But overall, the Bucs' X factor is quarterback right now. They need to figure out who it's going to be. And they also need to figure out what's going on with the interior offensive line. If they're going to lose 3 starters, their O-line's not going to be good. They need to address that, and quickly. What are your thoughts, Zach?
With the Deshaun Watson trade, I think that this is a perfect place for him to go, especially because they're ready for another Super Bowl. And the one thing that he brings to this table is he brings mobility. Brady didn't have that mobility, so they can run a lot of different plays with Leonard Fournette. They can run a lot of different stuff. I think that they should probably make a trade for him. Daxton Hill, I believe, is the best corner that they can take, especially because he's a very late second rounder sometimes, and early second rounder. He always switches. It's weird. And Jalen I can't say it too well. He's coming out of Baylor. He's a first round corner. I don't think they should go with him. It's just in their range. They probably shouldn't go after them. I think that they should go instead of Jermaine Johnson coming out of Florida State. If Ojabo's on the board because they are in that range for Ojabo, maybe you should take a chance on Ojabo because he wouldn't be that bad. He would be he'd be better than JPP in my opinion. And Ndamukong Suh is a very solid guy, and you should look at the Georgia defensive tackles to see it. But Suh is not a bad guy if you can get him back for cheap. Then Rob Gronkowski, I don't think he's going to be coming back. But Eric Ebron you can get on a really cheap deal because he hasn't had too much good production. And then, of course, we have to have McBride on here. We have him on mostly every single team that needs a tight end. So, yeah. And then, finally, wide receivers. Chris Godwin is, probably should be, other than Ryan Jensen, should be number one priority. Allen Robinson's a very solid guy. It could be on a prove-it deal. And I like the Sammy Watkins idea because putting Mike Evans and Sammy Watkins already sounds like a great idea. So I like that situation, especially. Now with the guys to bring back, I already talked about JPP. I talked about Sue. Ryan Jensen should be number one priority. I understand he's at 3, but in my opinion, O-line goes over most things. And then Gronk is probably not going to come back, but he's just a nice piece to have. So with the Bucks, they're in a very interesting spot. In my opinion, they should go for Deshaun Watson, Daxton Hill, and Sammy Watkins, and then Trey McBride. I think that would be a really solid team going into next season, and then re-sign Ryan Jensen if they can. So yeah. Does it? If Josh, have you gone yet? Josh, gone yet?
Yes, I have gone.
I couldn't hear you, bro. All right. Well, that does it for our video today. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you didn't, all right. And if you stayed this long, so you probably very, very much enjoyed the video. So how about you subscribe to the YouTube channel? That always helps. We're gonna try to get some interviews going. We have one more We have a couple more draft prospects review. I think we have 2 more when you're seeing this video. So yeah, I think that it'll be a nice place to get your sports news, which we do pretty well, and it takes a lot of time. So subscribing wouldn't be bad. And Jack, hit the plugs.
As always, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Frontline FB. Links are in the description as usual, or you just click the links right there. Next week, we'll be getting done the NFC West and the AFC West, and by the time you see this, free agency would have begun, and the moves start flying off the board, and the players start going. It's going to be awesome, so stay tuned. We'll probably review the free agency signing, and then we're off to the draft. Fun times in the offseason. We'll see you guys back here next week.
Yeah.